One of the most effective ways to learn about oneself is by taking seriously the cultures of others. It forces you to pay attention to those details of life which differentiate them from you. This quote is from the book The Silent Language by Edward T. Hall. He was an anthropologist that studied cross-cultural communication. My name is Dylan Bradley, and as you all know, our company is growing quickly, and with this growth comes expansion overseas. We as a company need to be educated enough to communicate effectively with our new relations, and this is where intercultural communication comes to play. What is intercultural communication? Well, by definition, it is verbal and nonverbal interaction between people from different cultural backgrounds, and it's a vital skill we need to sustain relationships with international companies. An understanding of intercultural communication will help us avoid misunderstandings, and it will also help us not to offend anyone. It will help us understand our surroundings and our own culture more, which is going to make it easier to learn about others. One of the biggest concepts we need to understand is high and low context. High and low context deal with behavioral patterns among cultures and fall within five categories, including association, interaction, territoriality, temporality, and learning. Cultures with high context include Japanese, Chinese, and Arab. Cultures with low context include German, Swiss, German, Scandinavian, and American. The first category is association, or how people relate to each other. In a high context culture, relationships depend on trust, which is built up slowly. One's identity is rooted in groups such as family, culture, or work. On the other hand, low context cultures, relationships begin and end quickly. There's more of individuality, and identity is rooted in oneself and one's accomplishments. The next category is interaction, or how people communicate. In a high context setting, there is high use of nonverbal elements such as voice tone, facial expression, gestures, and eye movement. Context, such as situation, people, and elements, and the conversation is more important than the words. The verbal message is more indirect, and conflict must either be solved before work can progress or must be avoided because it is personally threatening. In a low context setting, there is low use of nonverbal elements. The message is carried more by words than by nonverbal cues. The context is less important than the words, and the verbal message is direct and disagreements are depersonalized. The next category is territoriality, or how space is treated. In a high context setting, space is communal. People stand close to each other and share space. In a low context setting, space is privatized and personal space is important. The next category is temporality, or how time is treated. In high context, the importance is that the activity gets done with little stress on time. Change is slow, time is a process, and it belongs to others in nature. In low context, the activity getting done efficiently is important. Change is fast, and time is considered a commodity to be spent or saved. One's time belongs to oneself. The final category is learning. In high context, learning occurs by first observing others as they demonstrate and then practicing. Multiple sources of information are used. Groups are preferred for problem solving and learning, and accuracy is valued. In low context, learning occurs by following explicit directions and explanations of others. One source of information is used to develop knowledge. And individual orientation is preferred for learning and problem solving, and speed is valued. Now that you have a better understanding of intercultural communication, some things we can start doing to improve our intercultural communication skills include learning about different cultures and how they differentiate from ours and others. When you have to deal with a specific culture, find people who have experience with that culture to find common traps and miscommunications. A good way to show respect is to learn a few phrases of the other culture's language. Good examples are good morning, good evening, and thank you. The next thing to keep in mind is we have to be understanding. This can go a long way and will help you pick up on things such as nonverbal cues. Make sure you listen carefully during conversations and make sure you're on the same page by asking questions and recapping what was said. One of the most important things is to not be afraid to apologize. We all make mistakes, and if you happen to offend someone, the best thing to do is apologize and ask what you did to offend them. The last thing on the list is to be open-minded and accepting. This is very important when communicating across cultures. So I hope you all would take away the importance of understanding intercultural communication, the differences between cultures with high and low context, and some ways to begin improving our intercultural communication skills. In this constantly evolving world, we are becoming more dependent on each other as a global economy, which requires the ability to understand each other and develop meaningful relationships that last.